Adam Taxin talking with Rich Baehr, who is the co-founder and chief political correspondent for The American Thinker. He's based out of America's murder capital, a.k.a. Rahm Emanuel's Chicago. For his day job, he has been a healthcare consultant for many years, doing planning and financial analyses for providers. It's very essential to talk to him right now because he had a great piece which really summed up the situation just this past Sunday, August 5th. It's Wednesday, August 8th right now. His piece was called How the Obama Campaign Media Alliance Works, and it really said it all. Rich, thanks for talking with me today. Can you give just, first of all, a short summary for people who are only going to listen to 20 seconds about how the Obama Campaign Media Alliance works?
Yeah, what happens is you get an article in a major newspaper that's respected, say the Washington Post or the New York Times. You then get all of the media blasters for the Obama administration on MSNBC and the other networks making a big story out of it. And within hours, you have Obama attack ads running that show newspaper headlines about the alleged story and the terrible things, because they're almost always associated with something about Romney's background. So they're attack ads that are generated from newspaper stories and media supporters of the president's campaign.
It's a totally circular thing, and Michael Savage, for example, he calls it the government media complex, but it seems like Romney doesn't have to do anything. There's a complete narrative to begin with, and they just follow the script.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, basically this is almost exclusively about supposedly all the horrors from his years at Baehr. So it's an attempt to chip away at a reputation for competence and for a presumption that the American people may have that since the economy has failed and Obama as a result doesn't deserve another term, that the alternative is worse, because what you really have is this greedy rich guy who's just going to keep feeding money to his friends and people in his social class, which is the underlying theme of really everything at work here in these attack ads.
Yeah, and the Obama Campaign Media Alliance really was on display during Romney's recent overseas trip. Can you explain how that one works, as you did in the column?
Yeah, the only story that came out, in fact, 86% of the stories on ABC, NBC, and CBS were negative about the trip. And virtually all those negative stories dealt with supposedly a string of gaffes committed by Romney abroad. And I'll concede that in London he would have been better off saying less and just saying, it's going to be a great time, I'm happy to be here, blah, blah, blah. Instead he acted sort of like a business consultant, which is his background, and said, I've read in the papers that they have concerns about transportation, whatever. The British took it as an insult. That was basically a one-day story. Then the game started. Nobody really cared. I don't think anyone really is insulted or put off by it. But in Israel, they had to create a narrative of gaffes.
Right.
So when he mentioned that Israel's success is in large part due to its culture, and for which you can put all kinds of characteristics.
Imagine that, yeah.
Yeah. But that was perceived as racist and an insult to the Palestinians, because obviously the fact that they have not been successful must be due to the occupation, rather than, say, in Gaza, where the Israelis left and in the first few hours Hamas's people tore apart all the greenhouses that had been bought for them by American businessmen.
Yeah, it was as if big media was trying to pretend that it was something Romney thought but didn't mean to say, when he totally meant to say it. Now, let me ask you, it seems one thing that not McCain, but Bush, Cheney were good at in 2000 was conveying an element of contempt for the major media. Like, you could tell Bush and Cheney had the pseudo-inadvertent, maybe it was inadvertent, comment about Adam Clymer. It worked for them. They showed they hate these people. Where do you think Romney stands on that? Is he more like McCain or Bush? Because he hasn't really conveyed it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. During the primaries, the best applause lines that Newt Gingrich got in any of the debates were when he went after the media and went after a particular questioner. And Romney is basically still acting a little bit sort of above the fray, and he'll ask for an apology, and that's simply not going to work. I think he has to do what Gingrich does, and maybe not in exactly the same tone of voice, but that kind of contempt pays, because I think the general American population, not people who are naturally Republican, don't have a tremendous amount of respect for the media at this point, don't find them overly trustworthy. And I think given what they're doing to Romney, and they've obviously damaged him, given the weak economy, he should be doing better. The needs to basically show a little anger and also reveal himself in a positive fashion, because there's a lot of good stuff there in his background that he's got to sell.
Yeah, Bush did it in a more southern Texas, bless your heart kind of way. But let me switch to something else. One of many great parts in your column, which can be found at pjmedia.com. Again, it is called How the Obama Campaign Media Alliance Works, and I'm talking with the author, Rich Baehr. You talk about the differences between 2008 and 2012 in terms of what the press is effectively able to do to give an assist to the Obama campaign. What's different now?
Yeah, the difference is in 2008, they were trying to create really a positive image for Obama as this uniter, this articulate guy, someone rising above politics, post-racial breakthrough for America, and so on. They could sell really that message because there was so much negativity already, in a sense, in the market for the Republican Party and for Bush. Now, the Obama campaign had, plenty of negative ads going after McCain, but the major media narrative was what a good thing this would be for America to have a president like Obama get elected. This year, it's different in the sense that the record's out there. You can't rebuild what's not there anymore. It's broken. Obama's kind of shown what he is. The people who are loyalists to him, members of the ethnic groups he's trying to collect to get elected, they'll back him. But there's a much larger amount of dissatisfaction and skepticism than there was in 2008. So this year, the media campaign is basically to support the negative attacks on his opponent.
Finally, what do you expect to occur over the next 3 months in terms of the media giving assists? Will it be one big effort with a new part every 2 days, one big effort to distract people from Obama's record and his economy, or do you expect something else? Do you expect them to actually do their job?
Yeah, another good question. One of the reasons I don't think Romney's going to release his tax returns is because he understands that it'll be a trickle out, a story every day, that somebody finds something worth mentioning that'll get all over in the MSNBC and the New York Times and Washington Post. So I just don't think he's going to do that. Maybe after Obama releases his college applications and transcripts, so we can find out whether he applied as a foreign student. But Romney has an opportunity the next few weeks because he can create a narrative with his vice presidential pick. He gets to speak to the American people unfiltered, for 30 minutes, 45 minutes at his acceptance speech, as does his VP pick. That is an opportunity, as will be the first debate, which is generally watched by more people than the others and is also on domestic economic issues, which should be a strong suit. So he has an opportunity to sort of speak directly, and he's got to make the most of that opportunity. Obviously, the VP pick and how that's rolled out is important. I don't think we're going to see a Palin issue here. I think the kind of people he's going to talk about, there are negatives associated with it, with any or all of them, but there's more positives than negatives with most of the people they're talking about as lead choices.
Oh, Rich, let me ask one other question, if we can go a little more broadly than the specifics of the campaign, given that I do my stuff independently, you're with PJ Media, you're a very alternative news source. Is this something of a last gasp for the big dinosaur media right now? Can you just talk about it in more broader terms, what's going on?
Yeah, I think there's clearly more alternatives, and you are seeing more people who are politically involved, what I'll call the political junkies on the left and the right, who tend to go to those sources that give them what they're comfortable reading. So to that extent, I think there is clearly alternatives that can pump up the storyline and get the information out to activists. I wouldn't write off the major media yet. They own their broadcast networks, but they're also on a lot of the cable networks at this point. The TV, the newspapers are increasingly owned by syndicates of papers that own 5, 10, 15. So many papers don't have the ability to hire their own reporters anymore. They rely on the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Associated Press. So the power of what I'll call the mainstream liberal-leaning media, it's not gone yet.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Anything I should have asked but did not? Rich?
No, I just think that what the media alliance with the Obama campaign has done has sort of kept the race steady at this point, where in a lot of cases, if you see deteriorating economic conditions, if you have several months in a row with low job numbers, you might have seen a build-up in support. Now, there's still a possibility you'll get a big shift in the last few weeks of the campaign of undecided okay, or they may not vote. But I still expect this to be a pretty close election.
I've been talking to Rich Baehr, that's Baehr if you want to look him up. It's a great column on PJ Media, pjmedia.com. It's called How the Obama Campaign / Media Alliance Works. That's a slash just so you can find it the right way. Rich, thanks for your time.